Buddha's views about human suffering and how to alleviate it are the cornerstone of his teachings. In this context, he speaks of what are known as the Four Noble Truths, which are 1. All life is suffering. 2. Suffering is caused by desire. 3. Eliminate the desire and we eliminate the suffering. 4. Eliminate the desire by following the Eightfold Path. Now, what actually is suffering? The answer to this question actually depends on how an individual views it considering their background and experience. For example, suffering for some is the pain of starvation in some African country, for example Sudan, or people slaughtered in war between Israel and Hamas. Or it may be painful chemotherapy treatment and the like, severe suffering, in other words. But that's not what the Buddha had in mind about suffering. It's part of it, but not the main part of suffering. Non-fulfillment of desires causes suffering. Sex and drugs are a small part of desire. He said that suffering comes from desire, which brings up another misnomer. Most people go straight to desiring sex, drugs, great food, etc. Yes, that's a part of it. But the bigger, more expansive truth of it is that it means wanting things to be a certain way. It's about wants or preferences. Desires are also about what we don't want. And there's yet another misnomer here. Because Buddha didn't think it was only our wants that cause suffering. It's also, again, our not wants. Here's an example that will illuminate. We desire/want the job opening at Google. Once we get that job, we desire/not want that we don't get fired. The Buddhists call this craving, what we want, and aversion, what we don't want. Buddhism's core tenet is that it is all this craving and aversion that causes suffering. What type of suffering are we talking about? Which leads us to the key point of this video. What does that suffering look like? How does it manifest? Most of us automatically equate suffering with the extreme kinds mentioned earlier. But here is how we can describe the universal kind of suffering the Buddha was talking about. A persistent, near constant feeling of unease. That is the suffering we endure when our lives are spent wanting and not wanting. Understanding it this way makes Buddha's main teaching profoundly beneficial and useful to all of us. Why? Because it concentrates our attention where it needs to be. And that is decidedly not on getting what we want and avoiding what we don't want, which is how 99% of all humans live. Rather, it teaches us to focus our lives on letting go of our attachments to what we want and don't want. Attachment is crucial. That word attachment is vital, because all humans are going to have wants and not wants. There may be personal fads. You want to drink beer in a certain type of mug that you bought at a certain important event long time back, and you have been always using it for drinking beer. And one day it slips from your hands, falls on the floor and crashes into countless splinters. What is your reaction? Of course, you feel sad. But you also understand that such things happen over which you do not have any control. So, you do not become overly sad. You rationalize the incident. You like the mug, but are not overly attached to it. Where do we want to end up? That's the place we want to get on everything in our lives. You like your job, but if you get fired, it'll be okay. You are not attached to it. You go to a restaurant and order your favorite dish, but are told it is not available at the moment.
Fine.
You are not attached to it. You go for a substitute. When we live like that, the persistent feeling of unease, also known as suffering, diminishes, and we feel better. As the third Zen patriarch famously wrote, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." But we can't stop there. Why? because we can't eliminate our wants and not wants by simply wishing them away. First, we have to understand why they're there in the first place. Why is it that we constantly want and not want? Ego is behind our wants/not wants. The answer is that we've all built up this thing called an ego. It's the compilation of all the things we've experienced that we didn't let go of, that we held on to. It is those stuck experiences that determine what we want and what we don't want. Coming full circle, letting go of that egoic baggage, the yoga tradition would call these samskaras, is the key to ending our suffering/general unease. Getting quiet inside through meditation, mindfulness, and other spiritual practices enhances our ability to let go. So, we make those a priority. So, what should we do? What's the long and the short of all this? That 2,500 years ago the Buddha got it right. That virtually everybody feels some level of anxiety/not quite right, most of the time. That's the suffering part. And we all feel this dis-ease because we spend all day every day wanting and not wanting, desiring. Let's hope this clarification of the basics of this ancient, revered spiritual tradition will strengthen our basic understanding of what's going on inside us, and that you will use that understanding to sharpen your focus on the most important work we humans need to do. How to let go when your emotional baggage gets poked. We need to let go of the emotional baggage we've accumulated over the course of our lives. Most teachers, like Eckhart Tolle, stress the importance of being present. And they're right. Nothing is healthier than living in the present moment, aka being conscious. But most people, like just about everybody, say the same thing. I'd love to be present, but my mind is insanely busy. What causes our minds to think so much? Let's tackle this problem by contemplating what actually prevents us from being present. Put another way, what is it that makes our mind so active? And the answer is, all that egoic baggage we've stored is the cause. Letting it go is the solution. Long story short, letting go of this stuff is central to becoming more conscious living in the present moment. That being the case, you are always on the lookout for ways to assist in that letting go process. Because it isn't easy. Far from it. If you have body image issues and somebody suggests you order the fruit cup rather than the creme brulee for dessert, the emotion that arises will be difficult to let go of. You'll do everything in your power to either push it away, but you can't. The best course in this situation is that instead of pushing it away, as we normally do, we should try breathing through the pain and staying present with it. The pulled hamstring analogy. Not so with an actual muscle injury. If we pull a hamstring muscle, a physical therapist won't normally work directly on that muscle. What they'll do is stretch and massage the muscles around the injured one. Doing so will allow the injured muscle to relax and loosen up. It's the same when we encounter an emotional injury, like the person ordering the creme brulee. That person doesn't want to dive in and massage or stretch that injury directly. What's the emotional equivalent of direct involvement in the injury? That would be saying inside, "Oh God, that's too painful. Just ignore it and move on." That's just suppressing it. Or they could go the opposite direction and say, "Go F***K yourself. I'll order whatever the hell I want." That would be expressing the emotion which, while healthier than suppressing, still doesn't let go. Relax around the injury. The healthiest response is to relax around the feeling. We can feel these painful emotions just like we can an injured muscle. And it's usually in a specific area. For example, it is gut/stomach. So what we do is relax around the area of the emotional pain. And then what? Then we do our best to remain relaxed and not allow ourselves to either suppress or express the pain. Relaxing around the painful feeling has the same effect as it does on the injured muscle. It allows it to loosen, break free, and rise up. And loosening and allowing a piece of egoic baggage, or samskara as the ancient yogis refer to it, to break free and rise up is the highest work we can do. Why? Because if we do it enough, we'll find ourselves living presently, no longer burdened by our thought factory, minds. Wouldn't that be nice? The takeaway. Try using this image of leaning away and relaxing around your egoic injury/feeling. Loosen up as much as possible the area around the painful feeling. Just as with an injured muscle, the feeling will loosen up, but only if you refrain from diving in and engaging with it. Relax and let it go. It's a mantra to live by. I hope you like this video and will benefit from it. Please support me by subscribing to my channel. Thanks for your patience.